This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Welcome, listeners, to our fourth episode of The Edge, Trek FM's dedicated podcast to our new Star Trek Discovery series. We're so excited to be here again. And yay, I'm your host, one of your hosts, Amy Nelson. And with me is the lovely Aaron Harvey. Aaron, how are you?
Hello. I'm suffering from a little bit of con crud, so if I sound a little different than normal, I'm just recovering from a cold, and I will try to cover my mouth every time I sneeze or something like that. It's like it was worth it, but I would like to be in bed.
Yeah, so can I say I'm a little jealous from con crud? I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, don't be jealous of the con crud.
So, and we have a guest here with us, Zach Moore from Standard Orbit. Zach, how are you?
Greetings and felicitations, guys. I'm looking forward to talking some Star Trek Discovery with you, with a lot of exciting stuff, with the new trailer and the panel from San Diego Comic-Con. So a lot to sift through, and as Star Trek fans do. So
that is our topic. Aaron was able to go to San Diego Comic-Con, and he is going to tell us all about it. So, Aaron, what should we start with first? What's the best thing to start with?
Well, the panel I was on... No, yeah, we did have one of the reasons I actually ended up being able to go is that we had a panel with Larry Nemeczek where he talked about Southern California podcasters. So got to be in a podcast panel on Thursday that was off-site. And
that wasn't in Hall H, Aaron? That wasn't the big one?
No, unfortunately. It was in the library that no one could find. So there was a the people who were there wanted to be there. Let's put it that way.
Got it.
But it was a lot of fun. But no, I think the first thing, and the thing that was open from day one, was the off-site gallery that they rented a gallery that's just off of 5th Street, just right across from the convention center, and they put up like these fantastic props, and they had a little mini store, and they had a photo op where you could sit in the captain's chair, the one that we've seen in the previews and saw them building, and then they put a digital background of a very out-of-focus Discovery bridge, so you're still not getting a whole lot of detail about it. You can see the dedication plaque in the background, but you don't actually you can't read it. So,
USS Discovery Starship class, right?
Yes, something like that. It's clear that it says Discovery, and that's about it. But no, it was pretty incredible the amount of detail that was in all of this stuff, and you can go online and find pictures of all of this. But there was all the Klingon work, the phaser, the rifle, the tricorder, the communicator. And then like all the different versions of the costumes, including the medical, and then there's like kind of it's almost like I guess a jumpsuit that would be used in engineering or something like that, just sort of an all-purpose outfit, but it's a one piece compared to the two pieces that we've seen, so it's a little closer to like Enterprise. You know, it's sort of interesting, and the medical uniform is white, and it actually looks a lot like, in some ways, the motion picture Admiral's uniform.
The best, cool. Everyone's favorite uniform here, right, guys? The best uniform.
Yeah. I would, yeah. Both John Champion and I are like, we need this outfit, but it was really cool to see them in person, especially after I spent an ungodly amount of time taking freeze frames and creating a graphic for Trek movie of of what the uniforms might look like, and I was very happy with how good I got the boots for having virtually, like no real clear shot of anything. But so I just think it was really great what they did for the fans, and I know that a lot of people are like a little perturbed that CBS has sort of been so pretty tight-lipped with everything. But if you look at like all of the little placards that are next to the objects, so you get a lot of information. So it's pretty neat. And if somebody could read Klingon, they would probably see a whole lot of stuff, because like the blades all have Klingon lettering, and a lot of the kind of the armor and stuff like that have little Klingon bits and pieces. Probably a phrase like fold here or something like that. I don't know.
Goes nowhere, does nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you think these fit into what the props of the TOS era look like, Aaron? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the props of the TOS era are made for something where you can sometimes tell if it's an actor you might know on screen, compared to 4K, where it's like you can see every little detail. Even compared to, because I went to the Battlestar Galactica auction a few years back, where they basically got rid of everything that was left on the show, including Vipers and stuff like that. And that was made for HD, and it was, compared to like the Next Generation props that we saw, where you could kind of see peeling paper and screws and things like that. It was pretty amazing. And then this is just that one level up, and especially because the Klingon work is basically all created in the computer and 3D printed, and then painted and made to look metallic or however it's supposed to look. So it just, the level of detail is kind of crazy. The phasers, the communicators, that all really feels like it does fit into the TOS Cage era, especially because the Cage it felt like it had more metallic and kind of overlays on it and stuff like that, and this kind of feels like that. It's got like extra bits and bobs that's cool. That's streamlined and removed in TOS. That's
encouraging to hear, because I think none of us doubted the production value of this show is going to be amazing, but I did have some some fanboy concerns that it was like, okay, this is not going to fit in at all to what we've established in TOS, because it's not just like Enterprise is far enough away that you can fanboy your reasoning why things went back to the way they were in TOS 60 style. Fashion comes and goes. We even see it in our society. But when you're talking about something that we know what it's supposed to look like, we saw the Captain Pike's Enterprise in the Cage. You're like, well, is this really going to fit? But you're right. It had a slightly different look. Even the communicators are a little more metallic, bigger, a little more wiring going on there. And that is something that we, even from the first trailer that came out a couple months ago, we pointed out, hey, they got the Cage era communicator look, guys. So at least they're throwing you that bone. So that's encouraging to hear, at least somewhat.
Well, the real Cage communicator era is that like lucite plastic, what looks like a phone dial put into it. Like, that just looked bad even then, from what I understand. Even people who, like, I didn't remember it because I was not born when that came out, but I remember seeing it as a small child in like when they would show, it was inside, which episode was it inside of? You would know this. It was in
The Menagerie.
The Menagerie, yes.
Where Court Martial takes place, yes.
Right. That we did not see the actual episode until like 1985. But it just looked kind of chintzy, and it just like so I was always happy when they had the communicators that they got in TOS. I thought the only thing that they could have done, and I did a mock-up of this, is like if you took the lucite plastic and actually made that like kind of like a screen. If you've seen The Expanse, they have like their phones and stuff or anything, so like this transparent plastic until they turn it on, and then it has like a screen in the plastic, and that could have been kind of fun. They could have played with that, but to keep it like not be that obtuse, but just to keep it more like TOS, I think they did a really good job. It does. It's a little clunkier. It has the gold kind of screen, and it looks more Cage era. The one thing that we have noticed that they've done, and it's sort of like the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force, is they've put the delta on everything. I mean, it's and it works in most cases. On the phaser, I would say it's a little clunky because it just sort of looks like it's a gold rectangle with the delta on it glued on top.
Right.
It reminds me of the 1970s toys. It's like
I was gonna say
it's a
that,
gun,
yeah.
and we've slapped the logo on. Now it's a Star Trek gun. Go buy it.
Exactly.
Hey, kids.
It's totally the branding, right? The reason they're doing that. Is
Yeah.
that really necessary in the universe? I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, no, it makes sense because if you look at, like, U.S. Air Force uses their thing that looks an awful lot like the Delta.
Right.
It's sort of like life imitating art, imitating.
Well, what
life.
is your thoughts on them using the Delta for everything? Because, I know behind the scenes, we've talked about this in other shows and other conversations. Behind the scenes, it was a mistake on TOS where, like, the Constellation had a different patch and the Exeter had a different patch. But
There was 2 errors in 50 years. The rest of the time, it was totally right. So when you have 2 conflicting things on screen that are canon, you have to look at consistency and behind-the-scenes intent. Behind-the-scenes intent, there is a memo. There's several memos, actually, that say it's supposed to be this. And in fact, at times, they call it the Star Trek logo.
the Star Trek logo, nice.
Yeah. The Flying A is one of the original, like, early things. So I kind of like that, the Flying A. But, it was supposed to be looking even in Voyager when they had the Friendship 7. Was it not Friendship 7?
Friendship 1.
That's real life. Yeah. Friendship 1. It has the Delta basically on its side, with the kind of Earth in the middle with almost like a United Nations symbol.
Right.
So I think it's fine. I don't want to see them like, now we're going to retro canon the fact that every ship has a different patch, because it didn't.
Right.
Even the Defiant, that when they didn't have was it Defiant?
Yes.
Yeah.
The original Defiant.
Blurry, yeah. When the Okudas worked on In a Mirror Darkly on Enterprise, they didn't have the remastered TOS then. So they had, like, blurry pictures, and they thought, okay, well, maybe it's a different patch. I don't know. So they make it, like, slightly different. But now when you see it, it's really clearly the original regular Delta.
Right.
So now the Enterprise one looks like a mistake. So
yeah, what threw everything off was the Starfleet Command had their little starburst on their chest, and that's what really threw everything off, and here we are today. But, gotta mention it. We're Star Trek fans. We love this minutia. And, of course, for brand recognition, if for nothing else, they were definitely going to go with the Delta shield.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and then I think that's probably one of the reasons maybe that they mixed it up and did that sort of like that split. It's still the Delta, but it's got a little bit of different to it. Graphically, I really like how they do it, because they have kind of like they just draw the right half darker. So, and it's got kind of like a key line. One of the guys on the panel had a disco shirt, and on each sleeve had a little tiny Delta that had the new Delta. So when you were talking about you can't make it feel like it doesn't fit in with the cage, one of the things that we were told when we were covering Tron is that Tron Legacy is sort of the Tron you remember in your head, but is not actually what it looks like. So if you go back and look at Tron from 1981, it's not as high-tech as you remember it. So Tron Legacy is sort of what you think it is in your head. And I feel like that the props from Star Trek could be like that. It's sort of like, okay, the uniforms and stuff, when you look at them, no, they really don't look exactly like they do in the cage. But if you sort of remembered them with your 2017 veneer on it, that might be how you would kind of recreate it. So you wouldn't make it 60s looking. So I thought that was kind of an interesting analogy. It's like, oh, okay, that sort of works for Tron, but it also works for Star Trek.
That makes sense. I mean, even for the motion picture, sure they went through the refit, but there's a certain way of, okay, this is how the ship looked. Now we've gone through it like an HD up scale of what you thought you saw. Yeah. That's what we have now. So, yeah, I follow you. Well, let me ask you, Aaron, have you been to San Diego Comic-Con very often?
Yes, I've actually been there when you could walk up and just say, hey, maybe we should go today. Let's get a ticket.
Yes, yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen anymore.
I've been twice.
At all.
I think I went the last year that was possible. My dad was out in California, living there for a few months, and I went out there with him, and it was the last day of Comic-Con 2005, and it's Sunday. We're like, you know what? Let's go down and let's check out Comic-Con. Let's check it out. It's only a couple hours. We walked out. We walked in. It was great. There was room to walk around on the dealer's floor. There was space, and you didn't have to wait in line for hours and hours and hours. I went a few years later with my best friend, and it was just complete insanity. I mean, we wanted to go all 4 days, but we only got in for 2, which is, fine, because then we got to, like, enjoy California. But you had to go refresh to try to get tickets. And nowadays, it's just, I think, to be honest, and you tell me you went this year, I think it's gotten too big for its own good.
From what I understand, the year that tipped it into that was the year that they had Twilight. Basically, Twilight's ruined everything. It's ruined.
Well, I think we can all
it's
agree on
ruined.
that.
Yes, it's ruined literature. It's ruined movies. It's now ruined Comic-Con. So yeah.
But I know what you're talking about getting there early and waiting, because they don't clear the room. So if there's a panel you want to be at 4:00, you get there at noon and you just wait. And you take a bathroom pass and you go out, you come back, do whatever you need to do.
It was really difficult to maintain a seat. The only time that you would leave is actually during a panel, because you get a little slip of paper and you have to come back within the time period of that panel. So you can leave, you go to the restroom, get food, whatever. But yeah, it was great though. So we got up front right before the Discovery panel. I noticed that the writers and Neville Page, who does the Klingon design, and came by. I know Neville, so he saw me, gave me a hug. And then Bo, one of the writers, who I made, and I'm wearing today the Jason Gorn T-shirt. Jason Gorn has become sort of this fun internet meme by one of the writers, Ted Sullivan, when CBS got, shall we say, a little picky about like pictures that he posted from behind the scenes that were not spoilers in any sense of the word. He basically came up with this little meme of taking the little Titan Gorn figure and taking it with him and putting him in different situations and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I made them some stickers, and Bo came up and she's like, "I recognize you from Twitter." Like, it was really funny. So handed them that, and so it was really fun to see them getting to see how everyone else was reacting. So I think that was just a really fun experience, and something that you don't even see on all the videos, because now the video is online. You can watch what we saw. It, quite frankly, probably a better scene than what we saw. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's you're not smelling everybody there. You're not like your feet aren't sore, and so. But no, so it was really fun to see them experiencing their first like Star Trek convention, and that is something that I just had to keep kind of pinching myself, because it's just like, I'm seeing the first time that a Star Trek crew is coming out on stage and talking to people. Like, this will be the video in 25 years when they do the Discovery retrospective that
right.
they'll bring out, and you're like, I remember that. And everyone's like, wow, look at that 2017 hair and all that. It's like, so.
Well, do you think that most of the audience in the hall was for Discovery, or do you think that some people were just waiting for something after?
It was split. It was because after that was Supergirl, and then like Flash and
Arrow.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Man, that's like the best day ever at Comic-Con. Now I wish I would win. So.
I actually stayed for Supergirl because
of course.
I love that show. And a lot of people, I think, were there for Supergirl. That was sort of the big... So it was... I felt like it was sort of split, not 50-50, but, a good amount between Discovery.
Next year, people will be waiting through Arrow to get to Discovery, guys. Make it happen. So.
Hopefully next year they will not be in Hall H, because that would be a nightmare. Yeah, unless I'm somehow getting a magic press pass or something, I think Hall H is not in my future anymore. Actually, I did see Tron Legacy in Hall H, which was fun because we got to be. They recorded us yelling, and that actually became part of the soundtrack of the movie in the game grid. So,
oh, that's awesome, man.
So I had a question for you. So I saw like the panel got to see the trailer, and apparently that was for the first time.
Yes.
Didn't they see the trailer that came out a couple months ago? Or was this trailer something special? Like, when I saw Green's reaction, man, she just was overflowed with emotion and was so excited. And I thought, well, haven't you seen your work already? I don't know. What can you answer that?
No, I think they've seen the trailer that we've all seen before, the one from a couple months ago. But I don't think they've seen like all the they are working around the clock. They sort of like I'm not even sure who's going to be at Star Trek Las Vegas, because it's sort of like, you already had your vacation, you left. It's like, you can't just go like a week later and then
They've added 2 more episodes now, even more work for them.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I think they're on episode 11 right now. So they mentioned that at the panel, I think. So I think they wanted to either they had the ability to see it and didn't, or this was the first time maybe they saw everything all put together with the effects. I know that some people who were working behind the scenes have the ability to watch like the first 2 episodes, but they don't have effects in them. And they're like, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
It's like, it'd just be really weird. So I think that was all very like, wow, we've never seen this, because we've just been heads down working. And a lot of actors don't love seeing that either. Like they wanted like, let me just work and then I'll see it later. So I think for them it was really emotional, because they were there. We were all excited. They were as excited as we were, and
fed off you guys' energy for sure.
Yeah.
So did they have a moderator that was asking them questions?
The moderator was Rainn Wilson.
Harry Mudd himself.
Who will be playing Harry Mudd, my favorite character. Yeah. And I think he's wearing like the same pair of shorts that I've seen him wear like 13 times. I don't know.
I heard he did the
plum-colored.
I heard he was doing the Office thing for Dwight. He's like, "We are warriors." Like I thought that was pretty cute.
Yeah,
Office reference, because I love The Office, and we'll get into Harry Mudd here when we talk about the trailer. I love The Office. I love Rainn Wilson. I think his character of Dwight is a big iconic part of why The Office is what it is. I think he's great. I love him in even like The Rocker. It's a movie that he was in a few years ago that nobody knows about, but he's a funny guy, right? As Harry Mudd, but anyway, the trailer, right, Aaron?
Yes. Well, the trailer, I was happy to see it once we actually got back to a room with a big screen, because we saw it. We're in the front row, so we're now like, it's the equivalent of seeing a movie in the front row, but because we were centered with the panel, the screens are off to your right and left. So we're seeing it at like this really extreme angle. Like the video for, I think there was a Marvel movie, the Infinity War or something that kept getting pulled over and over again because it looked like it was shot from somebody's pocket, like at a corner, but it probably was. That's what it looked like to us. So it was cool, and we could kind of tell what was going on, but details I did not see until I was like, oh, hey, that says USS Europa. Yeah. And stuff like that. And so
once you got back up to the hotel and room and looked at online, experienced it hours after everyone else.
Well, we experienced it on our phone, I think, actually afterwards. Yeah.
So, did they, going back to the panel, did they open it up to questions from the audience?
Yes. We had a group of people come up. There was somebody who was dressed as a Vulcan. This is where it's like, you knew it was a Star Trek panel, because a person came up dressed as a Vulcan in their character, explained what their character was, and then proceeded to speak in very Vulcan tones in a very slow manner, and kept doing it. It's just like, and then it was so funny because Jason Isaac's like, can you repeat that? Or no, James Frain. Sorry, James Frain said that. And of course, because it's a Star Trek panel, he was going to repeat it. And he's like, no, it
was a joke.
No, it was a joke.
Your humor escapes me. Your Earth humor.
Exactly.
I love those guys at Comic-Con, right? It's like,
no, it's great. And
it's just so entertaining.
And you always get you get the small child who asks a question, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, it's so cute. And it's like, and you guys sneak was like, look, all being all excited and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a lot of, and they were good questions, actually. So I think I feel like the moderators were doing a better job this year in general of just moderating questions that came up to the mic for like all of the seasons.
Excuse me, what's your favorite Star Trek episode? It's like, oh no, not that one again.
Yeah. Though that would have been actually interesting, given that these people have never talked about it.
That is a good point. So. I often make fun of that question, but that is an excellent point, Aaron. So there'll be some good insight into what their Star Trek preconceptions are, because we must question our preconceptions before they question us. So,
yeah, I kind of feel like it was for. They also did a really good job of keeping the panel very much on task. Mm-hmm. So I kind of wish that this was one of those panels that had gone a little bit longer, because getting a bit more information would have been helpful. But I think they probably said as much as they could about their characters and the situation. We learned that Michael and Lorca have a very, special intimate relationship. Intimate not necessarily meaning, sexual or anything like that. So we don't know what that is, but that's about all they can say. We learn about the whole idea that Burnham is essentially adopted. They use the word essentially and basically and sort of, and they couch it in maybe it's not technically adopted by Amanda and Sarek after there's, her parents been killed in some kind of accident. And then somebody misreported it as if she was literally a biological half-sister.
And somewhere along the way,
which caused everyone to melt down.
Someone said half-sister or half-sibling, and then that's what they latched onto, and I kind of latched onto that myself. I was quoting the scene from Star Trek V. It's like, I happen to know you don't have a brother.
Yeah.
It's like, I have a half-sister. It's like, I got to sit down.
Well, and we didn't even realize that until we had pulled up, the Slack when we were looking for, or Facebook even, when we were just looking for, what did people think of it? And we're just like, why are people melting down? What is going on? That happens a lot in Comic-Con, where you're watching it and the people in the room don't react anything like the people react online or out in the real world. Like during the Supergirl thing, there was even apparently a joke that Jeremy Jordan was like, "Oh, can we please stop shipping these people together?" And it was just like get out of the way I feel about Chakotay and Janeway. It's like, enough, okay. But somebody took it as homophobic, which is hilarious given that Jeremy Jordan works on Broadway and he's not homophobic at all. No one in the room took it as that, and then so those sort of things sort of can spiral.
The entertainment news cycle, man. They're trying to find any little piece they can just make a story out of, right?
Yeah.
But,
so I think that's what happened with the sort of the half sister stepsister thing, and it was, but the energy of the people up there was just infectious. Like when I was left, I'm like, why isn't it September? It's like, and they you can tell when people are phoning it in. And there was a panel where they phoned it in. I'm just like, okay, can you just go now? Because you clearly don't want to be here. So
there's a good camaraderie between.
Yeah, it already has that Star Trek family feel, which is cool. They have game night, I think.
Yeah, I saw that Jason Isaacs was talking about that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And you can see that in a lot of which is something we haven't had before in any of the Star Trek, is like these, pictures of them out to eat or whatever, the social media stuff, and you get to see all the cool stuff that they're doing to kind of build camaraderie. Yeah. And it was weird not to see Chris Obi and Mary Shifo and those people not there, because they hang out with the Klingons. It's like,
so yeah.
They just weren't
about
there.
Who's not there? Michelle Yeoh was not there. I think, I don't know, guys. Let's put on our speculation caps. I think it's becoming more and more obvious that she's a pilot character who gets killed off.
A special guest.
Yeah, because even in the trailer, you see an explosion, and she's in the heart of the explosion, and then the ship gets blown up. There's a new captain. If we connect all the dots, guys, I don't think Michelle Yeoh is going to last very long past the 2-hour premiere.
Yeah, it feels like that. I wonder if she. I don't know how much of flashbacks and maybe not flash forwards, but flashbacks and reweaving time that they will use to tell stories. Because I know it seems like we're going to have flashbacks to Burnham's childhood, so it'll be interesting to see if whatever happens with the Shenzhou, however you pronounce it, we will eventually learn that. Happens, and then we move on to Discovery, and then is it going to be and then we're going to have her thinking back to when she was doing something with the captain there. I don't know if it's going to be, because that's a more modern way of
Arrow style.
Stories.
We're gonna have every 30% of every episode is gonna be a flashback. Yeah, because they mentioned.
No, I don't want to be stuck on the island. No,
the island's better than Russia and China, right? But anyway, well, China was.
It's always an island, and once upon a time, it was an island. It was just just don't go onto islands.
There's lost
okay?
and flashbacks, but anyway, the thing with Captain Georgiou. Again, we'll learn how to pronounce these things, as you said, Aaron. They mentioned that her and Burnham have a very close mother, almost daughter bond, and you're
mentoring relationship.
Yeah, could they? I mean, yes, they could do it in 2 hours in the pilot, but if they're really going to delve into that, it would logically, if you see more flashbacks, if you're going to see flashbacks of her and Sarek, let's see flashbacks of her and Captain Georgiou. So, but anyway, I think all signs point to Michelle Yeoh. It will not be a long term star on Discovery, unfortunately, because I was very excited when it's like, oh, Michelle Yeoh is the captain. That's great. You know, as a woman of color, an older woman, like, you know, a movie star, you know, as your captain. That's awesome. Now, but at the same token, I love Jason Isaacs. I mean, I think he's an amazing actor. Love him in the Patriot.
And he's older too, which is nice
he's
too.
older too. You know, you see him in the Patriot. You see him in Harry Potter, of course. So I mean, he's a well-known guy who hasn't gotten a lot of. You know, I think he should be a bigger actor than he is. He's so awesome. So I'm very excited to see him on what it looks like a weekly basis.
Fun.
Yeah.
He was very happy to be there. You could tell. So that was cool. I think from what we've gathered that the pilot will basically be like kind of 2 episodes. Like it seems like it's going to start on CBS, and then if you want to see that story continue for that one small arc, you go then on to CBS All Access. So it seems like maybe she'll be in if she's going to be just relegated to early on, it might be those 2 episodes.
Right. Feature length premiere. Yeah. So the panel, you know, it was in 3 parts, right? It was the trailer, and then it was like the discussion of introduce and here to say a little something about your characters, guys, and then it was the questions at the end, and you know, we kind of covered the questions and all that. We've been kind of dripping in and out of what people were saying. If you guys want to talk about the trailer now, that like the feature, you know, presentation that everyone got to experience, obviously online. Ironically, a lot of people at home got a much better experience than you did, Aaron, who was sitting in the room as it premiered.
I want to hear what you guys think.
So Amy, what are your thoughts on the trailer, Amy? Let us have it.
I'm very excited. I think we see a lot more. I like more of the ship views, and so we get to see that. And there's a lot of questions that I have, like a lot of explosions. I don't know. I just overall liked it, and it has piqued my interest quite a bit.
So if you were on the 1 to 10 scale of your excitement about Star Trek Discovery, right? Where were you before this, and where are you now?
I would say I was at 8, and now I'm at 10. I really want it. I want to see it. I can't wait for September. And plus, you know, doing this podcast and listening to everything, and the build-up is long.
It's been a long road getting from there to here, Amy.
It has. Oh, and I like the music in... And, you know, and there's words and stuff, and I know a lot of people get hesitant.
I don't think that's the intro, though. I think that's just the music that they're...
But just a trailer, and I really enjoy... I think the music fits perfectly with a little bit of suspense. It's soothing at times, and I think it goes great.
And we learned about the composer, too.
Yeah, who they announced was the composer.
Jeff Russo.
There we go.
He did music for Fargo and Legion, which I really liked. I think we had mentioned that like Legion at times, it's almost like the music is another character. It's like it really in that show set moods and did some really interesting things. So I'm curious to see what he does with Star Trek.
I'll have to go back and see if he was on Brandon's short wish list. I know they talked about that a lot in Melodic Treks.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you know, as for me, I liked the trailer overall. I think it did show a lot of scope, you know, especially with the Klingons. I'm very interested to see that. You saw a whole lot more of like their ships and their design, and it's very impressive. Of course, being, you know, the TOS guy here, I must say I am somewhat concerned / interested to see how they make all that make sense with everything. I mean, they went to such great lengths in Enterprise to explain the difference between the Klingons of the TOS era and the Next Generation era, and now we're in the TOS era again, and it looks radically different. So, and they continue to promise that things are going to be explained, and they're keeping the continuity, they're keeping the canon. So I will trust them for now, but I'm just going to say there's a big difference. You look at John Colicos and William Campbell, and you know, and you look at these guys, like they do not fit into the Klingon mythos of the time. But
would you notice when they showed the holographic people kind of floating in the background for half a second with the Klingons? There was one that had like a uniform that looked very kind of TNG, TMP, like Klingon metal.
Okay. No, I did not catch that. You think that's like a different, like the different houses have
different
looks?
Houses have different looks, yeah. And they had that, and I did notice like in the background some of the ships there were some like Klingon bird of prey shaped ships. So
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
They did mention in the panel that they would be speaking Klingon on the show with subtitles, which I think is awesome because we live in a new era of TV like that. Because shows like Heroes, right? You had people from around the world. You had they would speak Japanese to each other, and there would be subtitles. And you're like, hey, guess what, guys? Read them. Be an intelligent audience and read the subtitles. And I really like that they're doing that with the Klingons.
Which I think they must if they're going to do that, I think for the trailer, because we noticed that they're speaking English, the Klingons, but I think they're doing that for the trailer.
Well, and they were talking to the Shinzu, I think. We were at least in that scene. Where he's like, we've been waiting for someone who was worthy of our attention.
Yeah,
so,
that's true. So they would be trying to speak English, I guess.
Yeah, we haven't seen any Klingons talking to each other. Just some death yells and a funeral, perhaps, is what we've seen. So, there's just enough pieces where you can kind of get what's going on, but it keeps everything vague enough where it doesn't just spell it out for you like a modern movie trailer unfortunately does these days. Now, I do wish they had kept what I assume is the Shinzu getting destroyed a little more secret, because again, there's that shot of Michelle Yeoh and an explosion. Well, that must be what happens to her. But
the question is that though? I mean, we don't.
That's
know.
True. Yeah.
I mean, that's just sort of they always play with time and everything like that in trailers. I mean, they could be doing it on purpose. It could be not. I mean, I think that's one of the... I like both this trailer and the previous one, but I think the previous one was more clean, if that's the right word I'm looking for. It's just it was evocative. You didn't really know what was going on, and then it was over. This one is it's got a lot of stuff going on, and it's... Your brain can be putting things together wrong. I think there's a lot more that you can guess incorrect about it, and if you're going to be one of those people who get upset about things easily, you might also then just get upset about things. We did notice that Michelle Yeoh has maybe pajamas / prison garb / off-duty uniform / something that's sort of the mustard color of the cage.
I did notice that. I thought, this is how they're going to tie in the
patch kind of thing, the delta on her. Yeah. So
I think that might be how they work in the other, costume design of that era. So I'm interested to see that as well. And I did really like Sarek's dialogue in this trailer. You must you challenge your preconceptions because they will certainly challenge you. And I was like, oh, that's some good dialogue there. So
talking right to the fans.
Yeah, exactly. Can we have a more meta dialogue, please, from Sarek? Now, and James, is it Frayne? You've been saying, is it James Frayne or how?
Yes.
Pronunciation not our strong suit with this show.
I believe that's how I've always heard it pronounced, because he was in Tron Legacy as well.
Yeah, I found that out later on.
Yeah.
I was like, well, is this guy in? Oh, I must have seen him in that. But I think he's a very interesting actor, and I look forward to him portraying Sarek. And I'll just say this now.
He's very Vulcan-esque in his mannerisms.
He does. He carries it well. His cadence is very Vulcan. I will say this now, though. I do think, and I understand that CBS is different than Paramount and blah, 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 blah. I thought it would have been probably a more smarter move if they would have cast Ben Cross as Sarek in this, so you could have the same characters across the board. Then you could have Quinto come back as Spock, and you could accept that, whenever we revisit the old characters, this is the versions of those characters. I'm just saying that. I'm sure James Franco would be great, but I'm saying it would have been super cool if they would have just kept the characters from the Kelvin timeline.
And then you would have got then it's totally proven that this is a reboot and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I mean, I get, you can't win either way, but I'm saying now we have 3 versions of people when you could have just had 2. I understand Ben Cross is a movie actor. Hey, so is Jason Isaacs. So is Michelle Yeoh. Also, he looks kind of older. Come on, makeup, whatever, right? Vulcan's being aged. Anyway, I'm just saying that was my first impression when I heard about all this recasting with Sarek. I was a little hesitant, but seeing what he has brought to the role so far and hearing what he said on the panel, I'm very interested to see his interpretation of Sarek. And then, I guess we can talk about, I think, Aaron, your favorite part of the trailer was Rainn Wilson as Mud, huh?
Yeah. No. Well, and it's interesting reading now. They're saying he's going to be a more despicable, not despicable,
sinister Mud.
Sinister, Mud. I'm just like, well, okay, the misogynistic, goofy one was bad enough. I don't want a sinister, misogynistic jerk, basically. It's like, and the problem that I've had with Mud all along, and I've been really open about liking a lot of things and giving everything a lot, but this is where it's sort of like my personal, well, there's 2 things in the trailer. I'll let you know the other one. Personal, sort of like, no, we don't really need this. It's just, what can they do to him if we're going to stay in canon and we're going to continue, whatever we do here is part of the same timeline. he cannot become any better of a person than he is when we first see him in TOS. When we first see him, he's selling women to minors, basically. I mean, that maybe he's so horrible here and he gets better. I mean, maybe we're like, wow, he's such a great person now. It's like maybe he has some sort of moment of heroicism. That's a word. That's post-con going back to work brain. Maybe he's heroic at some point and saves somebody. Obviously, it seemed in that trailer that he was possibly able to save Burnham, but was like blackmailing her. I don't know. It's just like,
yeah,
it's just
such an odd.
I know you
thing
love
to bring
Rainn
back.
Wilson, or you at least like him. He's not my favorite actor. I'm sure he's a lovely person, but it's just one of those. When a certain person just tweaks you the wrong way, and you're like, I don't want to watch that person. That's Rainn Wilson for me. So I had sort of like a double whammy of like a character I don't need to see again and an actor I have no interest in. So
no, I can understand. I can understand where you come from, man. It's just such an odd thing to like. What could we bring back from the original stage? Sarek, okay, Sarek. Oh, Harry Mudd. Everybody loves Harry Mudd.
Like he's a fan favorite. I'm like,
I've never understood the appeal of Harry Mudd. Amy, what are you? Are you Amy? Are you a Harry Mudd fan, Amy?
No. I take it or leave it,
As a small kid,
I guess
kind
I'm
of
going to have to take
got
this.
Harry Mudd and Cyrano Jones confused until I got older, and I was like, oh no, those are two totally different people.
I do wonder, and I should look this up, and maybe I should know this being the TOS guy. I wonder if they tried to get Harry Mudd back for Trouble with Tribbles, and they just couldn't, and they created Cyrano Jones because of that. But hey, they both came back in the animated series, played by the original actors. Not played by James Doohan. Shocking,
right?
And
it made a difference. It worked.
I think Rainn Wilson would have been a better Cyrano Jones. Aaron, I think
that would have been interesting. And we don't know anything about him, really.
Yes, he's a lot more of a blank slate. I mean, we've seen Mudd 3 times. We've seen Cyrano Jones twice doing the same exact thing.
He would eventually brought the Tribbles, and that would have been
we could have seen him
fan
discover
favorite.
the Tribble. Oh my gosh, come on, guys! There's still time. That show hasn't come out yet. You can.
Oh, maybe this is the John Harrison of Discovery.
Cyrano Jones is
Mudd,
impersonating
he's Cyrano
Harry
Jones.
We figured out we cracked the code, guy.
There.
Oh my gosh. But
okay, hope you're listening, Bo and Ted, because fix it.
Oh man, but yeah, that's the worst part of this trailer, which is like, you're mad. I'm Mudd. I'm like, what? You really went there with the dialogue?
I'm sorry, that's just bad writing on top of it. It's just like that. It's like something that, like, when you were 17, you were like, "Ooh, let's write this. This will be funny." It's like,
it's like I think of like it's the most uninspired exchange you could have, because I think of like in X-Men 3. Right, when Beast meets Wolverine, right? Beast is like tells Wolverine, "I've heard you're quite the animal," and Wolverine says, "Look who's talking." I'm like, oh, this is the most obvious dialogue you come up with. But anyway.
We can hope that the way the trailer's put together, that those two lines actually don't follow each other.
Oh, that they will. They will.
Okay, I'm trying to be. Anyway. I'm trying to be positive.
So there you go. So I think that's the general take on the trailer. If that's the worst of our problems, we're gonna have a pretty good show, I think. But anyway, we had to nitpick that for a little bit.
Well, the last nitpick that I have for, you were talking about props and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm a computer guy. I do graphic design for a living. The UI that they have for like the ship where the Klingons drop out of warp and you see the Klingon symbols on it's like they appeared to make no effort to make that computer system look like it fits in the TOS world. I understand it's not going to be blinking, flashing button stuff, but there is no color coding that is similar. If you watch if you watch Enterprise, as that gets more further down the road, the system, their computer system, the colors become more green and yellow and that red, and they start to mimic the flashing physical buttons that you see in the original series. Uh-huh. There is a way that they could have taken that style and applied it to the heads-up display and all the computer systems and stuff, which I understand blue means future now. That's sort of like a thing where everything's like a blue computer screen or blue hologram or whatever. But they could have done something. And what is really weird is in the first trailer, when you see the photon torpedo bank, they have bullet symbols to indicate that they are not photon torpedoes that are just sort of shaped like they are literal like 21st century video game bullets. I'm like, no, just no. It's like I'm hoping that was its FPO, for placement only graphics that are made just for the trailer because they're still working on the final design, and we're going to be like, wow, that looks totally Star Trek, like an LCARS or something. But right now it doesn't.
Oh, I'm right there with you, man. I
looks
think
like
there's
leftover Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Or
let's
something
plug that
like
in.
that.
No one's gonna freeze frame this and analyze it for 50 years. Of course,
yeah.
not.
We're just Star Trek fans.
Who would do that? Yeah, they're just Star Trek fans. Yeah, I do think it all looks very impressive, but it does look very Kelvin Timeline, right? And it's like, come on, I think
it doesn't
there
even
was
look Kelvin Timeline. It looks like 2017. Military or something. I don't know. It's like,
well, I guess my point is the same as yours. Like, I think there was definitely a middle ground they could have found there, and they kind of took the easy way out. They're like, just flashing lights and stuff, and we'll see. I'm not going to judge it off these 5 minutes of footage you've seen, but
right. That's what I'm saying. Like, the one thing, if we're going to nitpick, that would be the one graphically that was like, that just stood out to me as like weird. And Larry Nemeczek had his own take on it. It's like, if you notice the star system, it's what stars look like from Earth.
Right, I heard
they're
him
clearly
talk about
not
that,
from Earth. It's like they're not around the Earth.
Ooh, nitpickers. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We're Star Trek fans, guys. Deal with it.
There was a book in the 80s. They were the Nitpicker's Guide to Star Trek.
I have all of those. They're amazing.
Do you? Okay.
So.
I think the guy did a column. I think that's where they came from originally or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that,
Phil Ferrand. He's the guy who invented, I believe it was, was it Logic? Or there was a Finale, I believe, a computer program. So anyway, love to have him on Standard Orbit sometime. We'll have to reach out and see.
That'd be fun.
But yeah, so, the trailer, it's good, I think it definitely does what it needs to do. It excites people about the new show, which we've been desperate for some kind of official news because
it
so
looks
much
lush. I mean, it looks
the scope is
quality.
amazing.
Yeah, it does have
we're
that.
Getting
whole...
our money's. We're getting our $6 or $10 worth a month out of this, guys. We're getting our money's worth, aren't we?
Well, when they said they were like, they looked to the motion picture for that expanse, that bigness. It's like, it looks big.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, moving on from I guess the trailer, then any kind of final things on the panel. I know one thing I did want to talk about was a little more depth is Michael Burnham being Spock's adopted sister. How does this sit with you guys?
I'm all for it. I don't really have much criticism. I'm more of, I guess, your lighthearted fan, yet I'm still doing podcasts. So I'm ready. Bring it, and it'll work. And I'm not as well versed as you two in the original series. So I don't have much that's going to conflict because I'm going to see it and say, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And just seeing it for the first time and not having all of the conflicts with Enterprise and TOS and stuff like that. So I'm ready to listen and take it in and accept it and love it. I'm just ready to have Star Trek new again.
Well,
so I'm ready for
it.
You're
the TNG lady. And
yeah,
so
they're not messing with that timeline, so I'm good. If they did, we'd be having a different conversation.
If it was post TNG or something like that, or in between TNG.
It's Picard's sister, guys. We all know her. I know you're used to family members coming up out of nowhere from season 7 of TNG. You get Worf's brother and Data's mom and Troy's sister.
Exactly. Bring it.
Star Trek the
family
reunion going on over there. So you're used to all these family members popping. I will say this. I like Star Trek 5. I know people don't like it. I understand it's not as quality as a lot of other Star Trek movies. I never really saw the big issue with Sivok or that big of a deal. I think he's an interesting character. But regardless of anybody's opinions, I think that is a polarizing thing. A lot of things, people complain about Star Trek 5, they always say, oh, that brother that came out of nowhere for Spock, where did that come from, right? So they did it again. They just did it again. Why would you choose to do that? I don't feel like they needed to tie in Michael Burnham with Spock. Like, I feel like that's I don't know why they want to do it. I feel like it's an unnecessary tying into, hey guys, Spock? Well, care about this character because it's his sister. It's like, no, we don't need that. She could be a good character on her own. So I think that's. Well,
what don't you think that's just fan service?
But it's too much fan service. We don't need. That's my thing. Like, just give us some good characters to stand on their own. No one on the Next Generation was a relative of anyone on TOS. Geordi was not Uhura's grandson or something, right? So that would be the equivalent, I think. Like they feel like you're not going to care about these characters unless, hey guys, look, they're connected. So that's my concern. Again, I don't know how it's all going to play out. I just, on first glance, that kind of like turns me off. Like, oh, we got to do this. We got to say, hey guys, you like Mr. Spock, right? Well, you'll like this woman because it's his sister and his dad's here too. So that's where I'm coming from with it. I hope
I want to see
Ichaya.
That, if we don't see Ichaya, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah. No, Ichaya died though. Years
or at least
ago,
see Spock in his. Well, no, but after this happened, it depends on. Well, we were talking about this before we started recording. It's like if you take her age, the actress's age, if she's roughly the age of her character, she's going to be born like 5 years before Spock, so it's possible that she's in and out of their life before we get to the point of seeing yesteryear, where who knows? Maybe Ichaya was actually her pet first. Never know.
Tying it all together and very good.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Supergirl earlier. We're both Supergirl fans watching the show. In the first season they weren't allowed to show Superman. But there was one episode where they showed Krypton in the past, and we saw young Superman as a boy, and that was our loophole of getting around it. So we could totally, they're totally going to do it. You're going to see young Spock, and he's going to go on his Coswan quest or something.
He's got to be
that.
In his little like the horrible
his
leather
coat.
shorts with the bandolier across the thing. Yeah.
Oh man.
Older
Spock.
It's interesting. I was talking with Adam before that. Vulcans live so long. They basically, it's sort of like, if your mom has another job in a later life, it's like, oh, I never thought I'd be a school teacher or whatever, which was my mom. And all these different careers, and they're so long lived that they might have these different, when we saw on Sarek and TNG, he's married to Perrin. I don't know who the hell Perrin is. I mean, she's just like, she came and went, but who knows what that relationship was? And somebody had even mentioned that to Spock, Kirk could have been sort of the equivalent of a pet. It's like it's something you love when you have it, and it's only around for like 15 years or however long, and then the pet dies, and you get another pet. It's sort of like. Not that literally that, but it's just sort of like
I love dogs, but that's a kind of a weird analogy.
Well, that was it was something I read somewhere where they were just talking about.
I understand what you're saying, though.
But yeah, it's just sort of like like the Doctor in Doctor Who. It's like that's a much longer lifespan, but the fact that the companions come and go, and it could just be that Michael was part of that part of his life, and then he just moved on, and then. And we don't really know a lot about Vulcan families because the first time we see Journey to Babel, when we first see Spock's parents, Kirk's like, hey, you want to go down and beam down and see your parents? It's like, my parents are right here. And it's like, clearly it's either not in his records or Kirk isn't really doing his job. But I think Kirk...
You think he would have known that.
I think Kirk probably did because he was so, this is the one time I'm giving Captain Kirk some credit, is that he's actually did all of his research for all the people who are on board and to make sure that this whole journey to Babel goes off without a hitch so they can get this pack.
Oh, I see this Ambassador Sarek has a son in Starfleet. I'll have to look him up later. I wonder who that is.
Yeah, so it's like clearly they're very private. So there's no reason why, if you've got Cybok that came out later and Kirk didn't know his parents were Vulcan ambassador, and it's just
I want to see Cybok. I want to see Cybok and Burnham be friends on the flashbacks. There we go. That will completely legitimize it all for me. They just tie it all together.
He is older than Spock, right?
Yeah, so he should be. But no, but he knew Spock when he was a kid though, before he left. Oh. So he would be around at some point, I think. So hey, they've said that it all makes sense canon-wise, guys. Don't worry.
And maybe it is that she doesn't live with them. I mean, it's possible that she goes to some boarding school, and he's just basically like. Hi, glad I rescued you. Hope you're okay. Checking in.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have enough facts right now, but right. So I don't want to be too negative about it, but just my initial gut reaction to we've just made this character who was this strong, independent, original character now connected to someone who already exists. I'm like, I just think it's unnecessary.
It's Spock, Sarek, Mudd. There's just all this. It's like we don't need all of this.
Yeah, because
we're smart enough to bring it in season 2. I don't know, or something like that.
Yeah, establish the show on its own, and then bring in the other. Like Next Generation had a rule, which it immediately broke in The Naked Now. But it's like, we're not going to... That's from the second episode. They're like, we're not going to talk about Kirk. We're not going to talk about Spock. Everything's off limits. This is its own thing. Act like the original series didn't even happen. And, it seems a little extreme, but at least they established their own universe before they started bringing in Sarek at the end of Season 3 and Spock in Season 5, and even McCoy in the pilot didn't even say who he was. Like, if you knew who he was, it added a layer to it, but if you didn't, it wasn't, wasn't confusing or anything. So, yeah, I get that, because they want to do a thing where, hey, guys, I know this happens the same time as the original series, a contemporary, but it happens on another side of the galaxy. They could be doing their own thing. We don't know what was going on there. This is completely independent from that. I am 100% behind that explanation. But then they try to have it both ways by saying, but look, all these other characters you know and love. It's like, no, you can't cross the streams that way. So,
I
it's
imagine
tough
that the
to balance.
The last episode of Season 1 is going to be the Enterprise coming on screen. Like, the last scene of the last episode, and then like, dun, 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 or whatever. It's like, that'll be like the season cliffhanger. It's like...
That'd be good. I would like that. Bruce Greenwood is Pike.
It would be... Is it Pike or April? I guess it's...
It would have to be Pike.
I guess it was just now Pike, or just newly Pike, right? No.
Yeah, because because no, if this is 10 years before the original series.
Yes.
Pike would still be the captain, because it'd be after the Cage. Because the Cage was 13 years before Season 1 of TOS. So yes, it would be Pike. It would be post Talos 4 Pike. But now they've recast Sarek for a third time. It couldn't bring back Bruce Greenwood, so it'd have to be a different guy. I nominate Ray Liotta. I know he's a little old now, but he looks exactly like Jeffrey Hunter did in the 60s. So just throwing that out there. He was on that cop show on NBC, so he does TV. Give him a call. CBS All Access.
I'm sure they're listening right now.
They should be. They should be.
Yeah.
So.
We have to be one of the earliest Discovery podcasts out there, at least.
So lots of facts of the panel there. Those were the lightning rod points of conversation for me. I know Doug Jones talked more about his character and how he walks and his physicality, which was interesting.
That was fun.
Because you saw him in the first trailer and he was just, I expected something a little more bizarre for a Doug Jones character, frankly, and now it turns out we are going to get that. So.
I was not privy to the press room afterwards. I didn't have my press pass, and I know they did some interviews with people. Anything that you guys learned that we didn't learn in the panel? Like interviews with each of the actors. Did they spill any extra beans that didn't come out? Anybody here?
Not that I heard.
So it's pretty consistent, it sounds like.
Yeah, I stick to just purely on the record sources, Aaron, so I cannot
this was on the record, but they have
I follow you.
Oh, okay.
They pretty much stuck to the script, as they should. They don't. Everybody's afraid of, no one wants to be the guy that gives away the big secret of the show.
Like Michelle Yeoh coming on the show. That was funny, because that happened. They're like, no, she's not, and then like 5 minutes later, oh, yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So I remember when even Doug Jones, Anthony Rapp had said, we're going to be at Comic-Con, and they're like, no. And he's like, oh yeah, I didn't mean that. It's like, once that happens, you kind of like, when you make them retract it, then it seems like it just
got to own it at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, I meant the cast of Rent was having a reunion at Comic-Con. Sorry, guys, I was wrong about that.
No, I think that might even be more craziness.
Well, will there be a musical episode of Discovery, guys? What do you think?
I wanted to add, that was going to be the question I was going to ask. If I got to ask a goofy question, that would have been it. Well, then Once Upon a Time did a musical episode, which I still haven't seen, and
Supergirl did one.
Supergirl did one, yep. Mm-hmm. So
Buffy the Vampire Slayer did one back in the day.
That's a classic one. Yes,
there's a precedent for it.
Yep. I don't think we'll see a musical Star Trek episode.
Yeah, and that's something else they talked about in the panel, where these are chapters of a bigger story. It's not episodic, so there's not time for stuff like that. They're telling their arc from start to finish. There's not time for these crazy divulsions or filler episodes, if you will, as we were so used to on the Berman era of Star Trek. Yeah.
So do you think that the arc is going to continue through all 15, or because now we know there's that break, a winter break, so is that going to be like one arc to do 7?
That's a good question.
They have fall finales these days, where like there's a kind of they close a little chapter of what happened first, but I think that'll be like, there might be some story threads they tie up, and then they'll open up all new story threads to get you going for the next one. So I think it'll be a little bit of both, because hey, they're going to want people to keep subscribing to CBS All Access, so you got to keep them until January, right? So
So we're looking forward to some good cliffhangers then. We'll see if they can match Best of Both Worlds.
That's going to be a hard one to do.
Well, we won't go there.
Oh, so look at Aaron. Look at Aaron. Oh.
I was never one of the like, oh my god, that's the best cliffhanger from Star Trek ever. I'm just like, I don't know.
But it's good.
Yes, no, it is very good.
What is the best Star Trek cliffhanger then, Aaron? You tell us. Since you've questioned the greatness of Best of Both Worlds, you have to tell us now.
Being a Voyager person, I think the most consistent, like, well-connected one was Future Tense, the one where I think it's Future Tense, when they go back to 1996 Los Angeles.
Yeah, but that wasn't a season finale, though, Aaron.
Oh, you're
different.
Season finale. Yeah, I guess for season finale, yes. It was better than Redemption.
Oh, man, Redemption's good, too. That's like the second best one.
They're both good, but I think I like Best of Both Worlds for the stakes and what happens. I've never been a huge Klingon fan, which is interesting because it seems like everything that I'm doing through Discovery is now
it's all Klingon related.
Somehow ending up Klingon, and that will be revealed at some point in the future. But yeah, lots of Klingon stuff, and it kind of, I feel like if they can make Klingons less two-dimensional, I'm very excited about it. I've been listening to a 3-part post TNG book. It was like Prey, and I can't remember there's 2 other ones.
Oh, I've seen those. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, this is really kind of interesting, except it just reaches a point where it's like there's just no more culture to talk about. And you're like, okay, let's just get this book over with or something. Or just go off to these other characters that you created that are infinitely more interesting. So I'm hoping that because it's 2017... the humans are going to be more interesting, but so are the Klingons and whoever else we are able to see. I really hope we actually see more than just humans and Klingons. Because if we don't see other Federation races, it's going to be a little... Besides Vulcans, I guess, sorry.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Andorians and the Enterprise really made them a true three-dimensional race, and it'd be great to see that continue that thread on into Discovery.
Because they seem like they're the right race for that era, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think you'd see anybody like the Cardassians or anything like that. Right. It's just too far in the future. There'd be too many questions raised and continuity flags risen about that. So yeah, I think we'll stick with the TOS races. We could see, see some Gorn.
Officer. No,
oh yeah, exactly right.
That doesn't make any sense.
we could see some Gorn, but I'm hesitant to see another CGI Gorn after how it turned out on Enterprise. Yeah, so,
Jason Gorn, we might see him.
I see Jason Gorn.
I am betting somewhere, and no one said this. This is all me just guessing that somewhere on that set, that little figure is going to be hidden, and we're going to be able to find it somewhere in some scene.
Oh, I think it's going to be like Wash on Firefly. It's going to have he's going to be on the helm right there, That'd be great. It fits perfect. The little dinosaurs, So
that'd be fun.
Oh man, that'd be good. But
inevitably trail. Yes.
Well, there we go, guys. Any final thoughts about San Diego Comic-Con or the new news that's come out from Discovery? I know we kind of talked all around there, but it's a lot to assimilate, no pun intended, all this new Discovery news and visuals and facts coming out.
Well, it's nice to talk like this because we didn't do like the scene-by-scene breakdown, which I know everybody's going to do, so I think that this is just the overall feeling, I think is a nice way to talk about it, because we're not, if you choose not to watch it, we really haven't spoiled anything, because there are specific scenes that we did not talk about, so... But I think it was great. I love the energy. The people seem to be enjoying what they're doing. I think that's important. From all the conversations that I've had and all of the interviews that I've seen, it might not appear to be canon as in some instances, but they all know Star Trek backwards and forwards. I mean, I had a conversation with Ted Sullivan and mentioned Ursinoids, which is a minor race in Mudd's Passion, and he didn't blink, and then he started talking about it, and I walked up, and like when I was done with the conversation, I'm like, I didn't have to explain that I have to explain that to everybody. Even my co-host at first. I was like, so if they know those things, I feel like, okay, they at least get all of Star Trek. If they choose to do something different, that's a different thing, but they're not ignorant. They're not oh, you don't know anything about Star Trek, you don't even like Star Trek that you see online constantly. So I really wish that the people who felt like that could have been in that room. I mean, it And if you still feel that way afterwards, then you're kind of dead inside, I think, because it's just well, no, I mean, well, okay, that's extreme, but they were just there's no malice or like, ugh, we don't care, we're just doing this for money. Who cares about the franchise? They love this franchise. It is their baby as much as every other cast and crew was. So it's like, I'm super happy about that.
And I know he wasn't at the panel, but we're going to see Nick Meyer write for Star Trek again, guys. So if everything else goes horribly wrong with Discovery, at least we have that, right? So come on. But no, I'm looking forward to it. It's kind
of amazing. It's just
who would have thought? 25 years after he did Star Trek 6, he'd be back. So, I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward to the home video release where he does a commentary on his episode, because his commentaries alone are amazing. So again, if nothing else, everything goes horribly wrong, I'm gonna hear Nick Meyer's commentary on his episode of Star Trek Discovery.
That is the one thing they did not mention anything about, was the Talking Trek show afterwards.
Oh,
and like no hosts, no show information, no nothing, which was sort of like, oh, okay. Because I was hoping to get more about that, because I was like, ooh, that'll be something fun to talk about, because that's sort of, our line of work, basically.
Exactly.
So maybe we're all still in the running.
That's right. They're still finding their host, guys.
Zach Moore, Talking Trek.
I know. I put in my application quite some time ago, so I'm just.
Yeah, well, I loved hearing you describe San Diego Comic-Con. Like, I was there last year just for the Beyond.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
And I left so then the next day San Diego Comic-Con started. So I was there and, saw you and met Adam and everything. It was so great. But, yeah, that excitement and the feel and, they had the actors from the movie there, and you could see their love and passion, and to experience that one-on-one is what really makes it. And again, I'm just so jealous you were at the panel, and I'm going to Star Trek Las Vegas, but that's leftovers, and I know it.
But you'll at least get to see. You'll get to see, I think, some of the people that we didn't possibly, and you'll get to see the display.
Well, maybe, yeah. So I'm very excited.
You'll get to spend a lot more time and detail up close, not being shuffled through with the gallery.
Yeah.
So that you do get that extra,
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that, and building that excitement. And then, they did add the Discovery panel on Wednesday, so really looking forward to that. So that's what I love, is that experience with them, and that's what's going to make it. So I loved hearing you describe that, and that was my favorite part. And I just so excited. I really, really. Zach, what are your final thoughts on
well,
this?
My excitement for Discovery had steadily gotten less and less as the months and had drug on and on and on. Honestly, I'm just apathy. I got into dangerous apathy levels when it was got delayed the second time. Right? I mean, I'm just being honest. But the trailer, a couple months ago, then especially this one. And then seeing, as you said, Aaron, all these guys are very passionate about it. They're not just in it for the paycheck. Because you can always be very cynical and be like, oh, well, CBS is only bringing this back because it's all access. They just want to make money and blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what?
They want to make money, too.
They're entertainment industry.
True.
Of course they want to make money. Who doesn't want to make money? It's not the 23rd or 24th century, yet money still exists, and it needs to be made to make livings, So I'm not going to fault people for that, So you can, of course, be very cynical about it. But I think they had a rough patch there of delays and all this behind-the-scenes chatter, and we had nothing official was coming about this for so long, and now it finally is, and the stuff we are seeing is very encouraging, and I'm looking forward to it again. And I'd say, I asked you the 10 scale there, Amy. I'm probably at an 8 now myself, after coasting for a 5 for a few months. I'm back up there in my excitement levels for Discovery coming soon.
Well, it has been so fun talking about Star Trek Discovery from SDCC, but that's not the only thing we've been talking about here on the network. Here's what you might have missed elsewhere on Trek FM.
Previously on Trek.fm, The Ready Room.
So we gave the pilot all we had, and then we ran into some problems with episode 2, and we told everyone, just throw something on the page, take a vacation, come back, and in episode 5, we'll just figure it out.
These guys from All Access are calling me every 15 minutes. How's it going?
Standard Orbit.
Apollo has been at this for thousands and thousands of years. He knows the human mind, knows the human heart. that old. There's an old expression, right? That old age and treachery beats youth and inexperience 6 days a week and twice on Sunday. I'm going to take the old age of Apollo in this and find a way to outwit Gary Mitchell and put Apollo on top.
Meta Treks.
But Pulaski immediately chimes in and says, speaking of Pulaski, she immediately chimes in and says, I have a problem with that kind of rigidity. It seems callous and cowardly. She calls Worf a coward.
Yeah, and if she were any other man, he'd kill her where she stands.
Stage 9, a podcast about the people who make Star Trek.
I don't know what the format of this show is, but I assume we pick something and talk about how it's bad.
Or talk about how it's good.
That seems a lot easier.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
Check out all of these shows and join the conversation about your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe and beyond. You'll find us wherever you get your podcast. If you're an Apple user, be sure to hit the subscribe button in Apple Podcasts on iPhone, iPad, or Apple TV, or the desktop iTunes app to get the latest episodes as soon as they are published. And please leave us a star rating and written review. If you're not an Apple user, we've got you covered too. You can find our shows on Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, in most third-party apps, and you can stream and download the MP3 file from our website or grab the RSS link. If you'd like to help us keep all of these shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/TrekFM. That's patreon.com/TrekFM to get all the details. Perks include early access to episodes, exclusive content, producer credits, and more, available through our special Patreon's website, Patron Zone. It requires a great deal of money to produce, host, and distribute these shows each month. We really appreciate any support you can give us and hope that you'll join the team. Again, you can find the details at patreon.com/TrekFM. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and there are many ways for you to do that. The best place is to join in the larger conversation in the Babel Conference. That's our listeners group on Facebook. Just type Babel, B-A-B-E-L, into the search field on Facebook, and it should come right up. If you'd like to send us an email, you can go to the form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send the show and select The Edge. That will come right to us. You can also find the network on Twitter at TrekFM and on Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM. So, Zach, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, you can find me, first of all, here on Trek FM, hosting Standard Orbit every week with my friend Ken Tripp. We talk about the original series. We talk about the Kelvin timeline. We talk about all things old and new when it comes to the original series. So, very good show, if I may say so myself. You can also find me hosting my own podcast, Always Hold On to Smallville, where we talk about each and every episode of The Young Superman Show. You can find us on Twitter at AlwaysMallville. And then for me personally, you can find me on Twitter at MooreOnZach. That's MooreOnZach. And see, you guys are laughing there, but you remember it, don't you? So...
Who are you again?
Oh, I laugh every time I
Zach?
hear it.
Is that what your Twitter is? No. See, my last name is Moore. For More on Zach, go to More on Zach. Anyway, I don't need to explain myself to you people. That's my Twitter. So,
and if you laugh at yourself, then
self-depreciation is a very admirable trait. I'll have you guys know. But anyway, that's where you can find me on Twitter, guys.
All right, Aaron, and where can people find you if they want to talk SDCC?
You can find me on Twitter as well at User Geek Filter. It's not User Geek Filter, it's just Geek Filter. Something I created long ago where the idea was that I was going to do these weekly, like everything you need to know if you're a geek, just filtered down into, and it didn't happen, but the name stuck, so it's been there forever.
Oh.
And you can also find me in the Babel Conference, chatting up there, and pretty much that username on anything that's like Instagram or Dribble, which is a design site. So check out my work. I'm also the network's art director, so you can find me there. And you can find me at Saturday Morning Trek, our animated series, podcasts, and all things Trek in the 1970s. So sort of like the continuation of Standard Orbit.
That's right. We are the pre-TNG Star Trek team here, Aaron.
Yes.
and now I didn't know that about your Twitter name. Now that's makes a lot of sense. Now you filter down all the geekness.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
There we go.
Learn things every day. So you can find me on the network hosting Earl Grey. And my favorite place is to hang out at the Babel Conference, so go there. And I'm also on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson. And I guess since we're describing our Twitter handlers, so I got this because I'm a teacher, and so I thought I would be tweeting all this teaching stuff, and that didn't happen. And now I'm tweeting all the Star Trek stuff, and so it's still Miss Amy Nelson, like you're calling your teacher. Hey. So that's where you can find me. So join us next time on The Edge.